So Redwood City, we were using more water than we should. We were in the Hetch-Hetchy system, but that's all right. All the cities weren't. I probably realized that about the second year I was there. I panicked when I saw it. I said, "Oh my God, what happens when all the city uses their water? We're in a huge deficit." Signed it to my public works director. Figured this out. I'm going through this very quickly. He figured it out. Said, "Wow, we need to cut way back. We can do X amount of water conservation, and we'll use recycled water. We'll use it on landscape and in businesses." We kept telling people this is what we're going to do. One woman, working the internet 24/7, had begun to get people afraid. She found the Mother's Club. She wasn't a mother herself, but she found and said that if the little kiddies played on the grass that we put recycled water on, they licked their fingers, they would get sick. All of a sudden, our chamber started filling up every time this thing came up. And then about 3 weeks later, she got some quack, and I got to tell you, I'm blunt about this. A PhD chemist who said, "Yeah, if you licked your if little babies licked their fingers, they could die of recycled water." So we did what every staff does. We got the best 2 infectious disease people plus chemists from Cal and Stanford. Literally, I got them from both sides. Made a presentation. Chamber was packed. Wonderful presentation about why neither of those true. How impactful were we?
Not at all.
Not at all. Data doesn't trump fear. If fear has been put on the table and people believe it, give up. Go some other direction. Well, staff, we were dumb. We didn't. It was my mayor who hit me upside the head because we've been working on building community. He said, "Ed, this is not building community." Oh, wow. You're right. Now, basically about 25, maybe 30% of the public was opposed. Probably there was about the same percent, maybe 40, that were in favor, and a lot of people who didn't care. So I said, "Look, here's what we're going to do." And I went through the steps that we did here. I said, "Council, we're going to set up a task force because this is technical. It takes time. We're going to put 20 people in the task force. 10 of them will be people who say they like Plan B, the staff plan. 10 of them are going to be the people who like who hate Plan B." Someone says, "Well, the council said that's dumb. Only 30% probably hate it. Why are we doing 50-50? Because if we do 30-70, we might as well not do it. No one will believe the committee. We'll be right back in the same place. Trust me on this," I said. I had no idea. I said, "Trust me. We got a good facilitator." We did a contract with that group. We chose who that group was, we meaning myself, the mayor, and the facilitator. And one of the major spokesmen of the we said, "You're not going on it." It was the lady who was working the 24/7. There are some people who are just jerks on either side of any issue, and they can't work in groups. Well, don't invite them in. Everyone was upset with that. We said, "Be tough. She'll screw up the group." We didn't invite her in. What we said was, "Here's the contract. You have to save 1,500 acre-feet of water by 2015. That was our date. So we gave them a physical. You can't spend more than $72 million because that's what we were going to spend to do recycled water. We had a sewer treatment plant. We were going to turn it, put pipes in the ground. You have to do it in 4 months. I don't know why we said that, but we said it. And it has to meet legal muster. Now, those were pretty big boundaries. The council was very upset. "Ed, we have a good solution." I know we do. But if we go with that solution, 30% of the community will be pissed and stay pissed. Why do we do that? Why don't we see if we can't come to something? We gave them $80,000 to hire any consultant they wanted to, because if we're going to be transparent, we'd be transparent. And they spent most of it, not all of it. We told them that there could be, they have to reach a consensus. They can define it. There will be no minority reports. And oh, by the way, because this was the kicker, the council finally said, "Well, that's good, Ed. If the committee can't do this, we will go with Plan B." Why did we do that? We did that because any anti-group who's put in the committee will try to screw the committee. And then they get their way. Nothing happens. So we were trying to be like any good parent and say, "Here are the consequences. And if that happens, we're going with Plan B." So they had an incentive to make it work instead of an incentive to screw it up. What did they happen? They took 6 months. They came to 100% recommendation. They did an idea that was better than ours. One of our ideas was we were going to pump this up in pipes, up the hill to all our parks. They did their study. They realized that there is no data whatsoever that the kids lick their fingers, they would die or get sick. And they said, you know what? But we're not fighting that. So they came up with this brilliant idea. Because most of these were big play field areas that we were going to think. And they said, we're going to put FIFA-approved synthetic turf on all of these fields. 1, you don't have to ever water it. 2, you don't ever have to mow it. 3, you don't fertilize it. 4, you don't aerate it. 5, you can play within about an hour after it rains. Okay? They figured it out financially. You have to replace those about every 15 to 17 years. So they did a life cost analysis. But we weren't putting up big pipes in the ground. We weren't spending electricity to pump the water up the hill. And there were people who said, I want to sit on grass. So around the edges, we allowed grass to happen. And they went down and tapped wells because we didn't have to have a lot of well water for the people who sat on the outside. A brilliant idea. When it came to council, it was a complete love-in. Everyone applauded. And they still talk about, we got to do one of those things around really tough issues in Redwood City. The council drew a great big line and said it's got to save 1,000 acre-feet of water by 2015. It can't cost more than $72 million. It has to meet legal muster, and we gave you 4 months, we gave you 6. That's setting big policy guidelines. That's what a council's about. The community came together and made a decision, and no one, we would have been sued on the other one. So that's probably an example of, that took, by the way, that took 6 rigorous months. We were meeting with that group about every other week. And this is a group that hated each other to begin with. They hated each other. Well, the people who were in favor of the plan didn't hate each other. The anti just hated. And they would caucus before a meeting and then come in. And after about the 3rd meeting, I said, guys, can I meet with you guys? And I dope slapped them. I said, you guys are stupid. I mean, I do talk to, you guys are stupid because you are angering the people who are in favor of this plan. Do you realize if they pull out, they get what they want. They get Plan B. So you better show them a little love because all you're doing now is angering them. Oh, my God, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, if I really piss them off and they leave, I got Plan B. I don't want Plan B. Yeah, so let's try to build a relationship here. So it works. Q&A. Questions?
It's great. How do you get people to show up?
Don't worry. Well, there's a lot of ways to do it. First, if you do it at night, always feed them. Always have daycare. Park and Rec people know how to do that instantly anyway. Always feed them. Always have daycare. Don't always do an evening meeting. Around the general plan, I was talking to your staff. Have something on a Saturday. Make it into a picnic and fun. And there's stations that people can go to if they want to. So don't always do a meeting at night. And people won't come initially, but the word will get out that the city is really doing different kind of meetings. These are kind of fun. And so it'll build over time. Don't count the numbers up front. Just do it right and let word of mouth tell people that this is different. This feels better. You ought to go to the next meeting.
How do you get them to agree to the constraints? The example you gave were defined constraints.
They didn't. That's the council's prerogative. They said that. You can't spend more than $72 million. You've got to save this much water because that's what our calculation says we need. And we knew we had to solve it by 2015 because that was the estimate back then. This was way back in the mid-90s. We knew by then that everyone else would be using their water. So those were big, broad constraints, and the council has the right to set those. The council has the right to set those. You elect the council to set these big, broad constraints. But they were pretty broad.
In most functions in the city, the same people show up repeatedly. How do you get other people to do it?
So don't go to meetings that you call. Go to other people's meetings. I found that sometimes what I would do, and we had this association of ministers, I would ask if I could take over a 2-hour meeting that they had at their church. And then all of a sudden there's this whole new group. Do it right. Do it with round tables and food and everything, but go to meetings that already exist. And even if you can get an hour at a sports club meeting, all the soccer people are getting together for 2 hours. Can I have an hour of your time? So go to other people's meetings. Look, they are passionate. You go to meetings. You go to garden groups. You go all sorts of places. We ought to go where you're going instead of always asking you to come to what we want to have the meeting at. And then use online. And I'll talk real quick about it. Let me say that really quick. So there's 2 things I want to talk about online. Civic engagement and community building. Same step. Do both. It doesn't take much effort. You can do both. The best tools, well, we have two. I think peak democracy is good. User voice is also very good. You're using them. They're two of the best. I probably prefer peak democracy a little more. Community building. I got flyers on your table. It's free to the city. You already have in this city. You already have 6 neighborhoods using Nextdoor. It's this little chart here. You already have about 500 people using Nextdoor. If the city wants to, we can make it a little more official. It doesn't take. It costs the city nothing. Costs the neighborhoods nothing. It connects neighbors. The more you connect neighbors, the more they begin to act like citizens instead of customers. The more they do that, the better your civic engagement is. So it's cheap, zero. It takes about, Jim, it's probably going to take about 2 hours of staff time to get it up and running. And the community actually is talking amongst themselves without the city being in there. So that was it. Other questions? Yes. Okay.
Have you had any experience with the transition town movement, which started in Europe and is now coming here? Can you speak to that?
I have not, so I would rather not speak to it because I just don't know if I've heard of it, but I haven't known enough to educate anybody, and I don't want to be dumb. Dumber. Any other questions?
What about the people that tend to be the most disenfranchised? The ones who are maybe poorer, for example,
Yep.
or mentally handicapped and living
Right.
in
So the most-
homes, things like that.
The most difficult group, the most difficult demographic to get to any of your events are youth. More so than anybody. Statistically, nationally, youth. So don't ask the youth to come to meetings at night. They don't do that. Throw them a pizza party or something and figure out how to get their input in really fun ways. And use big time, use other kinds of social media or games. There's some games that are sort of set up to solve problems, computer games and stuff. There is always some groups, a handicapped group is hard to get out at night. If there is a particular facility in the area that deals with those people during the day, go to that group during the day. Don't ask them to come to you. It's hard enough for them. Any other questions?
What's up on the street there?
I have no idea.
I've got a lot of problems with this kid here over the street.
Something scanning. Pepperdine University is just, the Davenport Institute is our institute. I don't have no idea. You're going through some, your computer's going through some cleanup loop. Any other questions? Big thing is start on time, end on time. I'm rigorous about it. Any other questions?